Om
Sadaशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Vahviyam
Vishveshwaraya.
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya Acharya.
Tanmay, could you please start from the 26th mantra and complete the section, please?
Till 29, right?
Till 29, yeah.
Shvobhava martyasya yadantakaitat.
Shvobhava martyasya yadantakaitat.
Sarvendriyanam jarayanti tejaha.
Sarvendriyanam jarayanti tejaha.
Ati sarvan jivitam alpameva.
Api sarvam jivitam alpameva.
Tavaiva vahastava nritya gite.
Tavaiva vahastava nritya gite.
Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyaha.
Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyaha.
Lapsyamahe vittama drakshma chetva.
Lapsyamahe vittama drakshma chetva.
Jivishyamo yavadi shishyasitvam.
Jivishyamo yavadi shishyasitvam.
Varastume varaniyasa eva.
Varastume varaniyasa eva.
Ajiryatam amritanam upetya.
Ajiryatam amritanam upetya.
Jiryan mrityah kvadhasthav prajanan.
Jiryan mrityasthav prajanan.
Avidhyayan varnarati pramodan.
Abhidhyayan varnarati pramodan.
Ati dirghe jivite korameta.
Ati dirghe jivite korameta.
Yasminnidam vichikitsanti mrityo.
Yasminidam vichikitsanti mrityo.
Yat samparaye mahati bruhinastata.
Yat sampraye mahati bhuhinastata.
Yoyam varo gudham anupravishtaha.
Yoyam varo anupravishtaha.
Nanyantasman nachiketa vrunite.
Nanyantasman nachiketa vrunite.
Iti pratamavalli samaptam.
Iti pratamavalli
samaptam.
Om Acharya.
Thank you. Okay, so let us look at the words. If you look at the first line, yadanta kaitata. So your antaka, that portion will take antaka. That yada antaka. Antaka is the one who brings about the end. So Lord Yama. So hey Antaka, O Yamraj. He says Shobhava, existence of Shobhava is basically something which is temporary. Right? That is why in Sanskrit the next day is called Shvo, which is temporary only. So Shobhava, all things which exist are Vishaya, objects of pleasure, all of them have only temporary existence. And what do? Jarayanti yad etat tejaha. So jarayanti means to drain or to weaken. So all this, our obsession with objects of pleasure, they weaken. They weaken what? Sarvendriyanam yad etat tejaha. Sarvendriyanam is all the sense organs. Tejaha is the power. So they weaken the strength, the power behind all the sense organs. And martyasya api, of a human being, he's saying martyasya api sarvam jivitam. This Sarvendriyanam, all the sense organs belong to whom? Of a martasya. Martasya means somebody who is mortal. So here it is reference to human being. So essentially the obsession with sense objects, they drain the power from all the sense organs belonging to a human being. And api, moreover, the second reason is being given. Sarvam jivitam alpam eva. All forms of life. And Shankaracharya in his commentary adds, even that of Lord Brahmaji, of Hiranyagarbha himself, alpam eva, it is all very short only. What to talk of our lives? So, who is talking now? Can you make out? Who is the one who is talking? Because in this particular mantra, you don't have a ovacha. From the words itself, you should be able to make out who is talking.
Nachiketa.
Nachiketa is responding to Lord Yama. So he says, therefore he says, Alpameva, all the life in this world, even that of Lord Brahmaji, is Alpameva, it is short only. And therefore, what does he say? Tava Vahaha, all the vehicles which you offered me, Nritya Gite, all the dance and the dancers and the songs which you offered me, Tava Eva, let that be yours only. Right? So Nachiketas is refusing the favors offered by Yamaraj. And over the last 2-3 mantras or 4 mantras, we have seen all the things which Yamaraj has offered, including long life, including, kingdom of the emperorship of the world. So very, very tempting things Yamaraj has offered. Nachiketa is refusing all these things. Therefore, he is showing his discriminative power. Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, Viveka. Right? And we must remember that this discriminative power, this vairagyam, so normally vairagyam is of 2 types, One is jihasa vairagyam, born of immaturity. So we also refer to it as samshana vairagyam, the graveyard dispassion. Why is it called graveyard dispassion? What is samshana vairagyam? Anybody knows?
It's like when we see somebody die and then we feel pointless. Oh, what is the purpose of all this? But it's just temporary because after 2-3 days you come back to normal.
Yes. So when normally it means that when you go, see, one of the naimittika karmas, occasional duties, which Shastra says is that when your relatives or your friends or your neighbors or whatever, somebody known to you dies, it is the duty of the person to go to on his last journey to the crematorium, Samshan. And therefore you go to the Samshan, you go to the crematorium, and then you see the body burning. And at that point of time, you have this temporary dispassion. After all, however rich this person was, however much money he had, however nice a person he was, where has he ended? On the pile of wood only. So certain amount of dispassion is generated at that point of time. That dispassion lasts only till you go home and have your bath. Okay, after that, you're back to being normal. So it's called Samshan Vairagyam. And it's called Jihasa Vairagyam, born out of immaturity. And there is another Vairagyam, dispassion, called Jignasa Vairagyam, which is born out of knowledge. And what kind of knowledge? The knowledge that things are ephemeral only, things are temporary only. And this is what Nachiketas is displaying. He is displaying that he has tremendous maturity because he is able to distinguish between what is temporary and what is permanent. And therefore, he is looking for the permanent, which is moksha, which is in the form of the knowledge that he has asked for. And that he is not going to be tempted by any of the anitya vastus, any of the temporary gifts which Lord Yama is offering him. So that is the text of the 26th mantra. And 27th also, it is Nachiketa only. He is continuing. So he says, Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyaha. So tarpaniya means to be satisfied. Vittam is wealth. So na vittena tarpaniyo manushyaha. A human being can never be satisfied with any amount of wealth. So that is the first statement he makes, right? And then he says, Chet adrakshmatva. I have seen you, right? You are the Lord of death. I have seen you. And therefore, lapsyamahe vittam. And therefore, what is he saying? I will get money, he says. Why he says that? We will see. So he's saying, I have seen you, therefore, money is not going to be a problem for me. Not only that, yavat tvam ishyasi, as long as you rule, O Yama, jivishyamaha, I shall also live. And therefore, what is left? I don't want money because I'm already going to get money. I don't want to ask for long life because anyway I am your disciple. And as your disciple, I will live as long as you are not going to kill your disciple first, right? Because you are Lord Yama. And therefore, as long as you live, I shall also live. And therefore, what is left? Saha vara eva varaniya metu. That boon alone which I have chosen, which is what? Which is Atmagyanam. That only I would like. So, na vittena tarpaniyo manusya. A person is never satisfied with any amount of wealth. Okay. What is the proof for this statement? Shankara adds in his commentary, but I like to know what you guys think is the proof for the statement that a man is never satisfied with any amount of wealth.
Because the happiness that he is looking for is not out of him.
No, what is the proof? The proof means in terms of one of the pramanams, one of the sources of knowledge.
Constant craving for more, a moha, a delusion, constantly wanting more.
You are giving the reason. I'm asking for the proof, the pramanam.
Pratyaksha also tells us.
Pratyaksha pramanam.
Okay.
So Shankara adds in the commentary that Pratyaksha pramanena siddhyati. It is proved through what? Pratyaksha only, because you are seeing in this world. Every day you are seeing that any amount of money a person gets, he is never satisfied. Because Shankara adds that. And then Nacketas says, Lapsya mahe vittam adraksham chetva. Since I have seen you, I shall get lot of money. What does he mean? Say, I have met you. You are the Lord of death. You are the ruler of this world. You are a great Devata. And it is, it is as a, what do you call, Atithi Dharma. As the Dharma governing your guests. You are not supposed to let me go home without giving me money. So I'll give you a small example for this. My grandfather was a very wealthy man. Great grandfather. My grandmother and grandfather were very wealthy once upon a time. And they used to follow this is part of tradition. So it seems that wherever just give me a second, please. Sorry. So he's saying you are a great Devata. And I was telling you about this story where my grandparents were very wealthy, and they lived by this particular creed that anybody who came home should be given money when going off. So they used to, the story goes, I don't know true or false, the story goes that any guest, reasonable, not just any guest, a reasonably respected guest who would come in, would never go without a gold coin. And the net result was that by that time they passed away, there were no more gold coins. They were totally bankrupt. Okay, but this is a tradition. So he's saying, since you are a great Devata and you've got lots of money, when I go, you will not let me go empty-handed, right? So you will give me enough money. And therefore, what is the implication that Nacketas is making? why should I waste a boon asking for money? Because anyway, you're going to give me money. That's number one. And then secondly, Jivishyamaha yavat ishyasi tvam. As long as you are the ruler of this world, of Yamaraj, of Yamalok, you will let me live, because it is not good for you to kill your own disciple, right? And therefore, as long as you live, I will also live. So why should I waste a boon on asking for long life? Because as long as you live, I will live. And Shankara adds here, this means that as long as you are occupant of Lord Yama's post, you will let me live, I will also live. So both of us will live a very long life. Therefore, I need not ask for a boon on long life. Okay. Then, so since I am a disciple, I will have a very long life. Therefore, Sahavaraha eva variniyaha. Therefore, I shall choose that same boon only. Which boon? Atma Vidya. So he is giving the justification for sticking to his stand. He need not have, right? He could simply have said, no, you asked me for 3 boons. This is my 3rd one. You have to give it to me. But he's a reasonable person. So he's telling Yamaraj what is the reason that he doesn't want the other 2 boons. Why he doesn't want money, why he doesn't want long life. But anyway, it will be there. And having, this is called buttering up the king. So he is telling Yamaraj that you're a great man, and I'm sure you will not let me, go without these things. So why should I ask you anyway? So please give me Atma Jnanam only. So that is the text of this verse. Then the 28th verse is there. The 28th mantra is there. So he says, Abhidhyan. Abhidhyan means, Abhidhyayam is to examine. So now he's saying, Abhidhyan, after examining what? Varna, Rati, Pramodam. So Pramodam is the pleasure. Varna and Rati. After examining the pleasures of music and sports. And not only that, Prajnanan. Prajnanan means after examining and understanding and being aware. So being aware of what? When you examine the objects of the world, what does Shastra say that you should be aware of? And then therefore, what should Prajnanan be connected to? It is not there in the mantra. But you have to, all the study that you have done so far, you have to extract from that study. When you examine an object of pleasure, what is there that you should be aware of?
That
Like
it is finite and mortal.
Yes.
It is finite.
So the limitations you should be aware of, right? So that's what he's saying. Varnarati pramodam prajnana. Having understood the limitations of all the objects which I'm examining, and not only that, what am I? Kahajiryan martayaha. I'm living in this world. I'm a mortal. And Ramet, why should I delight in ati dhirdhe jivite, in a long life? Why? Upetya ajirtayam amritanam. After approaching the people like you who are immortal. So he's saying, Jivan martya kvadhastaha. I am an aging mortal human being living in the lower world. Okay, now this lower world is coming from the 2 words, kwa, adaha, staha. So staha means to be resident in, or to be staying in, or to be established in. Kwa is another name for Prithvi, and adha means below. So he's saying, I am an aging mortal being living in the lower world. So there could be a question here, which should strike you. Why is the Bhuloka, the Prithvi, being called the lower world? Adaha. Why is it being called lower world?
It is the lowest among the Swargalokas.
Well, but it's still higher than Prithvi, right? Prithvi is not Swargaloka. Prithvi is Bhuloka.
It is lower in comparison to where he is at this point in time.
Absolutely. It is a geographical indication. Okay, like he is in Yamalok. So Suvarloka, what we say. And Suvarloka is higher than Bhuvarloka. So from where he is sitting, Yamaloka is where he is sitting. Bhuloka is lower. So it's Adaha. I am in the mortal living being living in the lower world. And therefore, but Ajiryata Amritanam upetya. I have reached you, O Lord Yama, and you who have discovered Atma, and you are non-decaying and deathless. Okay. So you can have two meanings over here. One is relative immortality, because Lord Yama will live for a much, much longer time in comparison to a human being. So that is relative immortality. Apeksha Amrita. And the other is that he is referring to Atma, which is non-decaying and deathless. Can be two meanings. And then he says Prajanan. Having known all these facts and having known the limitations of all the sense pleasures, then who will enjoy Ati Dirghe Jivite Koramet? Which sensible person will enjoy all these long lives? And this verse has been expanded into a text by Shankaracharya. Can you say which the text is? This particular verse has been expanded.
Atmabodha?
Nope. Anybody? Look at the text. What does it say? Look at the mantra, what it says.
Bhaj Govindam.
Bhaja Govinda. Mugda Jahi Dhana Agama Krishnam. That is what he's saying. So that 30 verses of Bhaja Govindam is an expansion, a commentary basically by Shankaracharya on this one verse of Kathopanishad. Okay, then we look at verse number 29. So he says, He Martya, another name for Lord Yama. He Martya, Tat Yasmin Vichikit Santi. That about which people have doubts. So you have to remember that Atma, or that issue about which people entertain doubts in this manner, idam, in this manner, and yet Mahati Samparaye, which deals with deals with your life after death. Hey Nachiketa, Navranite. Nachiketa does not choose. Nachiketa Navranite. Nachiketa does not choose Anyam Tasmat, other than that which I have asked for, which is what? To know about that particular issue about which people have doubts. Other than that boon, Ya Ayam Varaha, I do Anyam Ya Ayam Varaha. Any other boon other than that, I do not choose. And then he says, however, Anupravishtaha Godam. He is taunting Lord Yama. However, because of your reluctance, O Yamaraj, Anupravishtaha Godam, this seems to have become very inaccessible to me. That knowledge seems to be not coming to me at all. And yet, Tat Mahabruhi. Therefore, please tell me that. Don't offer me all these things. Don't offer me all kingdoms and emperorships and apsaras and all that. I'm not interested. Because there is only one boon which I want. And that is to you tell me about what I've asked for. So, Yasmin Idam Vishiksanti. With regard to that subject on which there have been numerous number of debates and doubts, it's a very rare knowledge. And that rare knowledge, because of the rare knowledge, everybody has doubts. And therefore, please tell me, Mudham Anupravishtaha. This jnanam is difficult to gain because you, Yamraj, are trying your best to avoid giving me this knowledge. Even then, na anyam tasmat nachikete vranite. This Nachiketa will not choose any boon other than that boon. And Shankara adds over here, that Yamraj was satisfied that Nachiketa was a qualified adhikari. He had the sadhana chatushtam necessary. Right? With this particular section is over. And therefore, Nachiketa said, what did he say? Dvitiya Valli. The second Valli will start now. Before second Valli starts, anything which you want to ask. All this is just a sort of a story form so far.
Acharya, can I please ask for you to just repeat the essence of the 28th mantra once more?
28th mantra. 28th mantra, he is saying basically that you have to examine all the pleasures of life. all objective pleasures, pleasures of music. And here he says Varnarati. So pleasures of music and sport and all those things, pramodam, you have to examine. And after examining them, you must be aware of the limitations. So which is nitya, anitya vastu. That knowledge you must have. What is permanent and what is impermanent. What are the problems with impermanent vastu? We have done many times. We have done Bhajagovindam also. We have done Gita also. What are the problems with impermanent vastu? That you have to recall from there. And therefore he says, after recalling all that, why would I am a mortal person who is living in Prithvi Lok, which is a lower world, and yet I have the opportunity to come and meet you who are immortal. Why would I, having known that there is something called immortality, why would I want to enjoy a long life? Because however long a life is, it is still mortal only. That's what Shankaracharya adds over there. Even Lord Brahmaji also has an end, because when Mahapralayam takes place, Brahmalok is also destroyed. And therefore, Lord Brahmaji himself dies. In the next Srishti only, another Lord Brahma comes into being. So Lord Brahma is there for one Srishti, unlike us who are there for only lives. So he said, having understood that this kind of a immortality is there, why would I want to ask you for a long life? But however long a life is, even if it is as long as yours, O Lord Yama, even then there is an end to it.
Thank you, Acharya.
Okay. Anybody else? We still have, quite a few mantras which are still not reaching the knowledge part. Okay, the first section is over. We have not reached the knowledge part. So if there are no more questions, I will ask Tanmay to go ahead with 2 more verses. Is that okay with you all? All right. So Tanmay, the second section, maybe the first 2 verses, mantras, not verses.
Acharya. अथ द्वितीयवल्ली
अथ
द्वितीयवल्ली
अन्यच्छ्रेयोऽन्यदुतैव प्रेयः
अन्यच्छ्रेयोऽन्यदुतैव प्रेयः
ते उभे नानार्थे पुरुषगंसिनीतः
ते नानार्थे
पुरुषगंसिनीतः
पुरुषगंसिनीतः
तयोः श्रेय आददानस्य साधु भवति
तयोः श्रेय आददानस्य साधु भवति
कीयतेऽर्थाद्य उप्रेयो वृणीते
प्रेयो वृणीते
श्रेयश्च प्रेयश्च मनुष्यमेतः
श्रेयश्च प्रेयश्च मनुष्यमेतः
तौ सम्परीत्य विविनक्ति धीरः
तं सम्पर्त्य विविनक्ति धीरः
श्रेयो हि धीरोऽभिप्रेयसो वृणीते
श्रेयो हि धीरोऽभिप्रेयसो वृणीते
प्रेयो मन्दो योगक्षेमाद् वृणीते
मन्दो योगक्षेमाद्.
Okay, so this is Yamaraj Uvacha, Mrityoho Uvacha. Now here, though he is starting his reply, he's still not got into the knowledge part as yet. So you will see why. So he says Shreyaha, so Anyaha, you got to break it up properly. Anyat Shreyaha Utaha Reya Eva Anyat. Okay, so Anyat Shreyaha Utaha Reyaha Eva Anyat. So Shreyaha Anyat. And here you have to add Marga. So Shreyaha Anyat Margaha. Anyam means what? What is the word Anyam mean? Other. Okay. Or in this case, you have to take it as Shreyam Anya Margaha. Shreyas is one path, Utaha, and Preha Evaha Anyaha. Preyas is another path. Okay. So the first line is that there are two paths. One is Shreyas and one is Preyas. Both different. And te ubhe nana arthe purusham sinitaha. So te ubhe, those two, nana arthe. What is nana in Sanskrit?
Very
Many. Many.
Very many, multiple. Okay. Nana is such. Nana arthe, with different destinations. These two have different destinations. And what do? Purusham sinitaha. Sinita is to bind. Bondage. They bind a person. How? Sadhu bhavati. There is success, there is joy. And adal annasya, for the one who takes to Shreyas. There is success and joy for the one who takes to Shreyas. Tayoho, therefore, between the two, yaha vrinite preyaha, the one who chooses prayas, uhiyate arthat. So, little complex Sanskrit. What he's saying is there is joy for the one who chooses the path of Shreyas. And therefore, out of the two paths, one who chooses prayas is deprived of artha, the supreme goal, which is moksha. If you choose prayas, you don't get the supreme goal. If you choose Shreyas, you get the supreme goal. That is what he is saying. And if you remember Gita, what did we say was the definition of prayas and Shreyas? First of all, where did the word Shreyas come at all in the Bhagavad Gita? Do you remember?
Arjun, in the third chapter, where Arjuna asks Krishna, what is Shreya for me?
Tell me what is Shreya for me. Okay, so there we had a discussion that Shreya is what is good, while prayas is what is pleasant. And what is pleasant need not be good all the time. And what is good need not be pleasant. So here Yamaraj has finished his examination of Nacketas. He is impressed because the majority of human beings, and we all know that, right? Majority of human beings are obsessed with materialistic things only. And even though a lot of people have very, very long lives and a lot of material achievements and a lot of wealth, a lot of property, we find that at the end of their lives, they are not peaceful, right? And what modern world exposes us to, the modern world's thinking is that you have to constantly increase your material achievements, then only you will be happy. So how much money I have at 70, I should have 10 times that at 85. Right? And therefore, I'm not able to accept even wrinkles on my face. How glamorous should I be when I'm 85 years old? Right? And here, this young boy of 12 years old, he has shown that he is not impressed with all that. So for a few seconds, you can imagine that Yamaraj is quiet. He is silent. And he wants to express his admiration. Therefore, this section in general, the interpretation of this section is that it is an admiration of Nacketas in particular, but also that it is a stuti, a glorification of all Vedantic students in general. Because Vedantic students generally would have more dispassion than the non-Vedantic counterparts. So this section, for the first 13 mantras, they deal with the glorification of the student, the glorification of the guru, and the glorification of the Shastra. All these things they deal with. So in the 14th mantra, so after this glorification has all gone through, in the 14th mantra, Nacketas tells Yamaraj, okay, I have had enough of all this admiration. And thereafter he restates his third boon again in a more precise language, and then only the teaching starts. So that is the brief outline of what we are going to see in the next few weeks. So in the first 4 mantras, it is Yamaraj, the Acharya. He's talking about the glory of the Vedantic student. Why? Because of the discriminative ability that he has. Because of his Viveka Shakti, Yamaraj is very pleased. And he calls this as Shreyas. Shreyas is equal to moksha. And by extension, this path of Shreyas can also be called the path of Jnanam, the Jnana Marga. And therefore, Jnana Marga has another name called Shreyas also. And in this mantra specifically, Shreyas, whenever you talk about Shreyas, you talk about it as Jnana Marga. And if you remember Tattva Bodha, the Anitya portion, the Anitya part of Tattva Bodha is called Prayaha. The Nitya part was called Shrayaha. Okay. Now, if you look at Shreya and Prayas, you have two portions, Maya and Brahman, or Maya and Moksha, right? The Brahman is not different from Moksha. So you should remember that whenever you say Atma, whenever you say Moksha, whenever you say all these words are tantamount to Maya, to Moksha only. Atma Jnanam is Moksha, Brahman is Moksha. All there can be interchangeably used. What is the other one? Maya. Maya, of course, is attractive but temporary. Moksha is not attractive but permanent. So he says Shreyaha Anyat. Shreyas is one path, which means Jnana Marga is one path, and Preyaha Utaha Eva Anyat. The path of the temporary path, there is a Karma Marga, you can say, is distinct. Okay. Remember, we are not talking about Karma Yoga. So Prayas means Karma Marga. There is no Karma Yoga which you're talking about. A very clear difference should be there. We are not saying Karma Yoga, we are saying Karma Marga. I hope all of you all remember the difference. What is the difference between Karma Marga and Karma Yoga?
Karma Yoga will bring Chit Shuddhi. The idea is Chit Shuddhi, and in the Karma Marg, it is for self pleasures.
Yeah, so in Karma Yoga, there will be the overriding objective of getting moksha finally. That means Ishvara is there in your center. Ishvara centered life is Karma Marga. Without Ishvara, when it is focused only on your own pleasures, it is karma only. And he says, Te ubhe, out of these two. Which two? The Karma Marga and the Jnana Marga, which we are now calling Prayas and Shreyas. Nana Arthe. They have totally different destinations. So here Artha means Prayojanam, the utility. So they have totally different utilities. And what do? Purusham Shinitaha. Shinitaha is binding the person. Okay. So both the margas will bind a person. How? By tying them down to a set of disciplines. And Karma Marga is from Veda Purva, is ritualistic, is full of regulations. And so Karma Marga will bind you down also. And Jnana Marga also has a full set of regulations. You saw in chapter 16. Daivi Sampatti, you must follow. Asuri Sampatti, you must avoid. All these are regulations. So Jnana Marga also has a full set of regulations. Both Margas have regulations. And therefore this obsession with adherence to the rituals will tie us down. Okay, remember that we are now in Vedanta. Okay. So until now we were in the Bhagavad Gita, we were in all the Karma Kanda, predominantly Karma Kanda with Jnana Kanda. Wherever there is Karma Kanda, there will be rituals. And here he is saying we must break those bondages now. So both Margas involve discipline. Without discipline, you cannot get Dharma, Artha, Kama, nor can you get Moksha. Therefore, both the Margas, Purusham, Sinitaha, they are bound to make you more disciplined. And Tayoho, between those two Margas, the one who takes to Shreyas he will, what happens? Supposing a person chooses Jnana Marga, Shreyas, which includes Karma Yoga as a stepping stone. So Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Sharavanam, Maranam, and Nididhyasanam. What will happen to him? Sadhu Bhavati. So here the word sadhu has to be taken as the one who has achieved the sadhyam. Okay. So sadhu is generally in Hindi, sadhu means poor fellow, or it means a person who is what they call put on the that yellow saffron robes. That is not what is being meant here. Here sadhu is the person who has achieved the sadhyam, and therefore what will happen to him? He will sadhu bhavati. He will become successful. He will become a jnani, right? And here, therefore, the joy of moksha, the joy when you get jivan mukti, it includes the joy of dharmartha kama, right? Do you remember the verse in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, which gives the same information, that the joy of moksha includes the joy of dharmartha kama? What is the verse in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2? No? Guys? Anyway, I will give you Yavan Artha Udapane. You remember that verse? Yavan Artha Udapane. What use is what? What use is
Is a pond in a flood.
Is a pond to a person. Yeah. So anyway, you know that is what he's saying here. The joy of jnanam includes the joy of dharmartha kama, and therefore he will die a successful man. He will die a jnani. What about the other people, the one who have not chosen moksha? So he says, Ya vrinite prayaha, the one who chooses prayaha, the other path, you uhiyate. So u is a particle here for emphasis. Hiyate means deprived of. Uhiyate is indeed deprived of arthaha, of the purusharthaha, the final purusharthaha, which is moksha. So arthaha here means the final moksha purusharthaha he does not get. Right? They will also get ananda. They will get temporary pleasure. But the temporary pleasure is going to be temporary because it can be snatched away by Yamadharmaraja. And what is the reason? They have chosen to identify with the anatma. Therefore, they have been deprived. Right? And Gita says, Yehi samsparsha bhogaha dukkha yoni evate. This world is a womb from which always there will be sorrow. Dukkha yoni, the womb of dukkha. Right? And the gist of this verse, therefore, is that the person who has chosen Shreyas, who has chosen the path of Jnanam, will be successful, while the person who has chosen Prayas, the path of Karma, will be unsuccessful. And Shankara here adds a very interesting comment. He says, Yamaraj is talking about choosing only one, either Prayas or Shreyas. Right? So he says, Vranite, we have chosen. So which choice you have to make, that is up to you. So since Yamaraj talks about choice, Shankara comes to his favorite topic and says, you can do either Jnanam or you can do Karma, but Jnana Karma Samuchaya is not possible. It is not possible to combine Jnanam and Karma. This is Shankara's favorite topic, as you all know. He says Jnanam is exclusive, Karma is exclusive, you cannot do both. And therefore he says, Te Viruddhehe. Karma and Jnanam are opposed to each other because of the form, Vidya, Avidya, Rupatvat. One is in the form of Vidya and one is in the form of Avidya. One is in the form of knowledge and one is in the form of ignorance. So Jnana Marga is in the form of knowledge, Karma Marga is in the form of ignorance. In Karma Marga, Karta dominates. In the other, in Jnana Marga, Akarta dominance is there. So in our language, Karma Marga is in triangular format, Jnana Marga is in binary format. So here, you can imagine a question. If both margas are available, why do some people follow different paths? Why do some people follow the prayas? And why do some people follow shreyas? That is a possible question, to which the answer is there in the next mantra. That is mantra number 2. So he says, again, Yamraj only. Shreyaha cha prayaha cha. Shreyascha prayascha. Manushyam etaha. So the two margas, Shreya and prayas, are both available to a human being. Shreyascha prayascha etaha manushya are available to human beings. You have the choice to make whether you should do Shreya Marga or whether you should walk on the path of Praya Marga. Whether you should do karma or whether you should opt for jnana. This is the choice available to everybody, he says. And tau samparitya, having clearly considered those two, having clearly examined those two, dhiraha, the person who is a viveki, a discriminative person, vivinakti. Vivinakti means distinguishes between what? Between nitya and anitya, between shreyas and prayas, between jnanam and karma. He makes a clear distinction, and having done so, dhiraha abhivranite shreya. This wise man, this discriminating sadhaka, he chooses shreya abhivranite. He chooses shreya over prayaha. While mandaha, the one who is mandaha, who is not so intelligent, what does it do? Rinite prayaha. He chooses prayas. For what purpose does he choose? Yoga kshema. Yoga kshema is a what they call technical word, which we saw in Bhagavad Gita. Do you remember what it means?
When Krishna says that I shall preserve both yoga and the shame, the whatever is already there, that will be preserved, and the yoga I shall help with that.
So yoga here means acquisition of what you do not have. Kshemaha means preservation of what you have. So that's what Lord Krishna says, that for the person who is following my path, I will take care of acquiring what you need and preserving what you have. So therefore, this is Yamaraj saying that Mandaha Yogakshema, he does. Mandaha chooses Prayaha for the sake of acquisition and preservation of things. Like he wants to acquire things to be happy, and he wants to preserve things to maintain that happiness. So Mandaha chooses Prayaha. Okay, so effectively, when you say Etaha Manusyam, both these two are available to us, both these two paths are available to us, we mean that we are born as human beings. And the uniqueness of a human birth is that there is a faculty of choice, right? Unlike animals, for example. So what proof do you have? You take any species of animals or birds who let us say, build their houses, a nest. The same species of a bird, every individual member of that species will build the nest in exactly the same way, right? They don't have an interior designer. So every nest is identical. But human beings, for example, when they build houses, they have different houses, big houses, small houses, multiple rooms, and different designs. And therefore, shreyas and prayas are both available to a person. That is to say, Veda Purva also is available to me. Veda Anta is also available to me. Veda Purva comes in various attractive forms. It says you do this particular puja, you will get this particular result. You do this puja, you'll get a child. You do this puja, you will be a king of the world. You do this puja, you will go to Swarga. All these things are there. So Veda Purva comes in many, many attractive forms. What does Veda Anta do? It simply repeats like a parrot. Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi. That is the essence of Veda Antaha. Veda Purva, it has no divergence in it. So between the good and the pleasant, what will keep our interest? What is changing always keeps interest. So usually Veda Purva is what we all opt for, right? The Karma Yogi who has chosen the path of Karma Yoga, He knows the problem is with himself. He knows that he should not talk about rights. He should talk about only duties, right? And the thing is here that whenever you talk about your rights, usually you will end up in a fight. Right? You have the story of the monkey stealing groundnuts. Do you know that there was a monkey who used to steal the groundnuts from this groundnut merchant? So the groundnut merchant got angry. I'm sure you all know the story. What did he do? He put a small pot in the ground with a very narrow, opening, and he put some groundnuts inside. The monkey put his fist inside and grabbed some nuts, and the fist would not come out, and therefore the monkey got caught. What is the moral of the story? Vedantic moral of the story. It's a very simple story. I'm sure you understand the moral. What moral could that story have?
If the monkey opened his fist, he would be free, but he chooses not to. He is the cause of his own imprisonment, so to speak.
Yeah, so basically, unless he drops the property of the owner, he cannot be free. So here, ragaha, attachment, is what? Holding on to things which are not yours as your own. Why do we say not yours? Because even holding on to your wife and child, you might say they are my wife and my child. But Yamaraj is saying no. They are basically all belong to Ishvara only. They are on lease to you, temporary usage only. And therefore, raga is holding on to other things as own. And everything, ultimately, everything belongs to Ishvara. All anatma belongs to Ishvara. As long as we hold on to anatma as mine, mamakara, then Ishvara will keep hammering us with anger, fear, anxiety, problems. All these problems are there because we are holding on to anatma. And dropping this mamakara, this attachment to things which are not mine, that is what is called vairagya. So ownership leads to depression, while the knowledge that I am not the owner, it leads to liberation. And therefore, he says here, samparitya. After thorough analysis, dhiraha vivinaktihi, he understands what? That Shreya is better for him than prayas. How does he understand? Shankara gives the example of the swan. So there is a traditional example, the mythical Hamsa, the swan. It is said to be able to separate the milk from water. Okay, it's only an example, so don't take it very seriously. It's an example which appears in the Shastram, saying separating the milk from the water is what a swan does. And like that, this person separates Shreyas and Prayas and chooses Abhivranite, chooses Shreyas consisting of Jnana Yoga, while the Manda, the one who is not smart, he chooses Yogakshema. So Manda, the indiscriminate person, Prayaha Vrinite, for the sake of acquisition and preservation, he chooses Prayaha. So what is the definition of Yoga? Aprapsya Praptihi Yogaha. Can you follow? Aprapsya Praptihi Yogaha Praptasya Rakshanam Kshemaha. What does it mean? By now you should have enough Sanskrit knowledge for this. Anybody? Word by word. Aprapsya. What does it mean?
One that cannot be attained.
One which is not attained. Aprapsya, that which you don't have.
Okay.
Praptihi Yogaha.
So yoga is the prapti of what you do not have.
Yoga is the acquisition of what you don't have. Praptasya Rakshanam Kshemaha.
The whatever you have is protected.
That is Shema.
called Shema.
So that is the two things. Okay. And this Praptasya Rakshanam, the Kshemaha, what is the Kshemaha which we all do? We all struggle to retain our youthfulness. You know that first gray hair, you pluck it out before anybody else sees it. The first wrinkle, you put your makeup on before anybody else sees it. This is all kshema only. So he's saying that karma marga will keep a person in the material and finite world, which has a lot of defects. And we saw those defects earlier. We call it sadosha purushartha. Three doshas. What are they? Dukkha mishritatvam, atripti karatvam, bandhaka tatvam. Do you remember all this? Dukkha mishritatvam, atripti karatvam, bandhaka tatvam. These are three defects of material goals. Do you know what they are, or do you want me to explain further?
No.
We know that.
We know that. We know that.
All of you know. Anybody doesn't know? Okay. So you know. So initially we'll all be in karma yoga because of immaturity. It all takes time to become mature. But slowly, when we understand that whatever is acquired in time will be lost in time, we understand that there is a fundamental law. And this fundamental law, people who are indiscriminate, they never understand. The only thing which is not lost in time is what? I the Atma. And this discovery that I am the Atma who is never lost in time, was there always. I was there, I am there, I will be there. This discovery is called Jnana Yoga. And one who comes to this marga itself, one who comes to this path, that coming to the path itself is a very great achievement. So remember that if somebody chooses karma as a means of material success, he is the person he's calling mandaha. But if somebody chooses karma yoga as a means to chitta shuddhi, he is not a mandaha, because he can and he will come to jnana marga later. And if he has chosen karma marga as karma yoga, then we should always make a mental note that karma yoga marga is also a form of Shreya Marga, also a form of Jnana Marga only. So with this, I'll stop. Any questions?
Ravi the last which you said between karma yoga and karma marga is not very clear to me. How karma yoga you said can also be
What
jnana
is
marga.
the benefit of karma yoga?
Chitta shuddhi.
And chitta shuddhi starting point for what?
Starting
Jnana
point
marga.
for jnana
Jnana
marga.
marga. And therefore, you will start on karma yoga to get chitta shuddhi. And if your objective is chitta shuddhi, then you must be having a later objective also, right? Chitta shuddhi by itself
Right.
is not a great objective. But if I want chitta
Right.
shuddhi, then my objective is jnana. That is why karma yoga also is taken as a part of Shreya Marga only. Okay, so with this we'll stop.
Acharya, sorry.
Yes,
I
Admira.
just wanted to point out the importance of context and the interesting way words are used in Sanskrit. Usually the word yoga is always associated with nitya vastu.
Yeah.
And very clearly out here, the yoga kshema, when it comes with yoga kshema, it is
Yes.
related to anitya vastu.
Absolutely. So in Sanskrit, the same word can have different meanings. And you will see that even the most common word we use, Atma, that Atma can mean the body, it can mean the mind, it can mean the intellect, it can mean Atma also. And therefore, contextual understanding is important, which is why it becomes very critical to have a teacher. Because without the teacher, the context will never be known. And that is why we say, do not ever read the scriptures. Otherwise, like some Englishman said, I believe, after reading the Vedas, is a prattling of a blabbering child. So that you will come to that is the conclusion about the Veda. The blabbering child is talking. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Acharya, thank you so much.
Let us wish Tanmay a very happy TTC. She is going for a TTC at Naya Dam.
Acharya, please, your blessings.
Oh,
Always with you.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay.
Acharya.
Thank you.